Blah, 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 blah. Go. Welcome. This is the Art of Rock. I think it's streaming. I have no idea if it's streaming. I just can't keep up with my life, nor where I am at any one given time or space. First and foremost, I would like to acknowledge the Tongva people as being the traditional landowners of Los Angeles, California. Every Saturday, we are here in Art of Rock Opia, which is a new state that we're setting up, in which we basically drink the milk of synthesizers every Saturday morning, 9 a.m. LA time, 12 o'clock New York time, and 6 o'clock Berlin. It's 6 o'clock in Germany, Alex? Yes, it is. Rock and roll. Well, you should bloody be here because it's the place to be. This is brought to you by Angelspit's Patreon. Thank you, everyone who is a part of it. There's so much stuff there that's free now. So you can follow it for free, and I will post as much content as I can. I've got a gig coming up, and I'm really excited about it, and I want you to go, and I want you to get excited. And everybody involved is actually really excited. Ooh, we were putting some new gear into this space, actually. My ambient band, Ice Planet 9000, is playing with Auto Dealer, who's another LA ambient electronic band, kind of. We're both kind of weird ambient, not really ambient. December 11th, the DV Theater at the LGBT Center. Matt from Auto Dealer and myself both work at the center, so we're actually building this space to be amazing. It's 5.1 audio, the lights, the projections. This is going to be really cool. The seats are limited, and we're going to try and make this a regular event. That was officially a scoop. There's a new Kickstarter, which is Benoit's horror soundtrack. Follow it. Give money to it. It's awesome. There's a whole bunch of weird industrial music going on right now at the Industrial Incisionist playlist, including Benoit stuff and several bands here. Go and like that stuff. It's bloody great. Add it to your list of things to do. Every Wednesday night, it's Culture Vulture on YouTube. It's great. Follow that shit because it's bloody awesome. There's a very cool merch deal with Angelspit where you get a pound of random merch for $25, free shipping to the US. I don't think I can ship internationally because international shipping is ruining my life and everybody's life. MTV TV will not ruin your life. In fact, it will unruin your life. Like it, follow it, subscribe to it. It's fantastic. They also have a Patreon. Will you please go and love their Patreon and give them money because we've got to keep them going because everybody says, no one's giving me support. These guys are giving you support and it's free. Another person giving me support is Raziel, co-host with the co-most. I've got to work on that a bit. Thanks, Razzie. That's Razzie stuff. Go follow Razzie, like Razzie, listen to Razzie, support Razzie on his Patreon. Turn your damn mics on. I want to talk about horror instruments, horror soundtracks, just horror. And it's not because it's Halloween. It's always fucking Halloween. Talk to me about horror. Go. Right?
Okay, I'll jump in. Low frequency sounds are harder to localize and than in nature. And so if we use atonal low frequency sounds rumbling forth from the subs and woofers of the speakers, they can sound creepy and like you don't know where they're coming from. And that might be a good thing to add to your horror sound effect bed. 101.
Keep talking.
I don't really have a lot. I just like that's the one that always comes to mind. I mean, the atonality is sort of the thing where there's a lot to be said for, traditional minor key and, whole tone scales and things like that that have also ambiguous tonality. But the sound effects of things that don't have discernible pitch is kind of the tone cluster of ideas that we're working with here. Haha. I don't know if I have anything specific though. I haven't like used this a lot. I mean, I've used it in song intros and stuff like that, but not as a soundtrack composer. So I'm sort of speaking about crap that I've heard and recognized as effective. But also, yeah, like you know, there's a tradition of metal scrapes and waterphone sounds and stroked metal, bowed cymbals and things that have uh, clustered atonal noise sounds with a lot of chaos in them, and those are all real go-to elements. And if you just stacked all three of the things that I just described from low to high, you'd have a really frightening thing. And whether that relates to harder to locate in space around you when something's attacking, or the atonality of a human scream, you know, these are sort of the go-to things that come to mind for me. I just want to.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm going to throw out the question, like I'm throwing to Ivan, but the question I want to boil in everybody's mind is, what scares you? What makes you feel uncomfortable? Ivan, go.
I'm not afraid of death.
Your cat meowing in the background was absolutely perfect timing.
Cue.
But the question I'm asking is, what are you afraid of? If I put a massive huntsman spider on you, would you be afraid of it? What are you afraid of?
There's a difference between afraid and just don't like. Don't like clowns. It's because I know their true nature.
Okay, well, let me explain that. Firstly, what did you, my darling Ivan, and Kat, want to talk about? Because you had your little hand up.
Okay, you know, it'd be difficult to
pick the cat up and hug the cat. That means pick me the hell up now and hug me.
No, it means follow me out and give me treats off schedule.
She's trying to tell you where the food dish is.
Yeah.
Treats off schedule. The food dish is full.
I tell you, man, tabbies have a voice, don't they? They have a typical tabby voice. You're a tabby, you can tell.
Yeah, oh yeah. But anyways, you know, like it is impossible to have this conversation about horror, you know, soundtracking without talking about two things. Okay, Goblin. The folks that did the soundtrack for I've done a ton of them. And then John Carpenter. You know, he makes his own music for his movies. Can you guys hear me?
I'm hearing you.
I can listen. We're listening to your cat as well. Thank you.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Did you want to expand on those two things that you can't talk about, which is ironic because now you're not talking about them?
Yeah, give me a sec. I need to deal with a monster.
Okay, I understand. I've got a tabby. You're being tabbied. In fact, isn't it crazy that if you take the two most terrifying things in the world, a tabby and a ginger, oh my God, you get a big tabby ginger. Gingers are tabbies. Let's always remember that. And there's black tabbies too. But gingers are apparently the cat from hell. I love gingers. They're great. Frank, get in here now.
I know, where are all the cats? Come on. Jojo. Yeah,
bring out the tabs. So I ask about what scares you because to me it's a very important thing. Is that how can you emulate the sound of something that scares you, or emulate the feeling of that thing that scares you? How can you replicate if somebody is, for example, arachnophobic? How do you emulate the sound of its feet? Or how do you
that's a really good one. And as a matter of fact, go.
Yeah, well, I'll go a step further on that, and it's okay. Clowns are common. A lot of people are afraid of clowns, but the question is, how do you present sounds that are that say clown without like? How do you go in to express the nature of the being that you are afraid of musically, as opposed to something obvious? And there's a time for obvious, don't get me wrong, but boiling below the surface. Let the music boil below the surface as their intent boils below the surface. Razi, what do you think about this?
It's weird. I don't have any musical ideas. They all do sort of go into the sound design realm, but like I specifically didn't click on a video that was titled "The Noise of This Large Australian Spider Species Feet on This Paper Is Gonna Freak You Out." I was like, I don't need to hear that personally. But I think there's a couple of elements, like if I was going to be startled and like, have some sort of response, the proximity miking, so that it's an exaggerated volume level, obviously, and then removal of the noises and stuff, so you get a very close perspective on a small sound. And you can do that by like compression and levels and taking off the peaks and stuff, so you get a really super present close impression of some small thing that sounds larger than life that shouldn't be near your head, because when it bites you, you're going to die. This.
Okay, I want to take this. Thank you very much. I want to take this past process and I want to take this into emotion, because you scare somebody with emotion, not process, unless it's the movie Brazil. Then you're going to scare them with process. But everything else, we're going to scare them with emotion. And my question is, how can you musically bring forth the concept of something freaky? And to help free your mind, pretend that it's an acoustic session and you've got a whole bunch of acoustic instruments. And they can be built. It could be a piano where you take the lid off it and you're scraping the strings or whatever. I don't want to get too bogged down in the process. I want to know about the emotion and the emotional. How do you convert emotion and fear and creepy into a music idea? This is just a fun brain game. Mic's open. Let's throw it in here. And if you just joined us, every day is Halloween. Every breath you take is Halloween. It's always Halloween. So we're talking about horror movies, horror music, horror, everything. Here's Brett. Really nothing?
I have like thoughts coalescing about how to put this stuff together, but it really keeps banging up against process.
Okay.
Like,
all right.
The scariness.
I'm gonna railroad you for a sec, because I'm a bastard and that's what I do. Anytime for being a bastard. Thanks. So I do a podcast with LA Opera, and this week they're doing an opera in Los Angeles about it's a Spanish Dracula, and it was taken from this movie from the 20s, just as it was coming into talkies. And we did an interview with the composer Geraldo. I don't know I'm terrible. I forgot his name, but he's won 2 Oscars, and the guy was every time I've talked with someone or done an interview with someone who's won Oscars or Grammys, every second word they use is and they mumble, and they're all very ethereal. It's fast, and they've got somebody who books them and their aide and their assistant, because they're so untogether. It's not because I won a Grammy and I need an assistant. It's like, no, I need an assistant because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. And this guy was talking about, he went into ever so slightly the process, but mainly it was the emotion. Who is the character? Because horror is really, real good horror is, here are a bunch of characters and something is going to happen to those characters, which is quite terrifying, and it's going to transform them, and we've become emotionally invested in them, and they may die. So we are creating music and things to represent the fear and horror that is inside these people as they are facing their death, as they are trying to avoid it, and something gruesome. And it's even better when they're facing something that is spiritually, psychologically, or physically undefined. It's a ghost. It's a demon. It's a Japanese horse demon girl who crawls out of your TV set. So the question is, how do you represent you musically? And that's why I think it's really important to, if you ever get spooked, think about what's spooking you? Oh, there's something, you know, everyone gets spooked. Like, and I'm talking spooked. Take a breath. This is a great thing about being an artist because you can go, oh, wow. Okay, I'm spooked. I'm going to use this. What do I feel right now? What sounds can I use to convey the horror of this? And I'm always like, demons are welcome in my room, but you just got to know, bitch, I'm going to sample your ass. And it's if that fear, if that horror, because man, I get it often. What does it sound like? What does it sound like, Ivan? What does it sound like for you?
Yeah, I mean, we're there's a lot of moving parts here, but like like music theory first. Like Hollywood has spent a lot of time and energy figuring out like what chord progressions do what to people's brains. And that's easy to look up on YouTube these days. Like everybody's doing here's use this chord progression, use this chord progression to represent this, and it is a great starting point. You start there and you figure out what you really want yours to sound like. From there, what is the time signature of this horrible thing that's about to happen, and how many BPMs is it happening at?
Process.
It's
I want emotion.
all good stuff. Well, like 12/8 time signature.
Process.
It's gonna have its own emotions brought along with it.
Process. Not if you're
And
Mr.
then,
Bungle.
and then
Process.
from there you add the fun stuff, which is
No. You start with the front. Says, Ivan, we are talking about spirituality, which is your speciality. So I want you to convert the horror of these things into emotion and into music. And every time anyone talks process, I'm shooting them down. Go.
And for that, I'm turning towards my mod wave, because it's really good at doing like drones and ambient stuff in the background.
Process.
The mod wave is good at making spooky sounds.
Process. I'm such a bastard.
And what else do I? Well, then the Hydrosynth is
process. I want to challenge you like I got challenged this week by someone who won 2 damn Grammys. I want to pass on the acid trip of a conversation I had. I'm just going to start shooting my mouth out. Actually, Alex, do you want to jump in so I can shoot you down? And then I'll jump in and you can all shoot me down.
I think, sorry, I'm not quite there today. Maybe I need to take a walk after this. But
dude, you're going to need therapy after this, but please keep going.
I think the best way is to just push yourself into a state where you're on the edge, where you're really instinctive, and just keep pushing, and afterwards edit the results. Like just smash the keyboard frantically, try not to think about what you're doing. What I used to do is just smash the lower keys on the piano, and there would be clusters of sound. And I think it's like really powerful, especially if you do it with intent, not just intellectually, just select the keys and push them down, just smash it. The same with just chaotic patches that you don't know how they work, and just tweak knobs. Don't think about what to do, just tweak knobs. I think that's a way to get something very gut-wrenching and visceral.
Thank you.
You can always throw some like howling wind or dry grating wind sound, down low in the mix. The Exorcist used wind sounds to indicate to the audience when crazy shit was about to happen.
I
And you
want
have
to pick
pay
up on that.
attention to hear that.
Yeah, horror triggers very, very, very. But and then I see one of my favorite horror triggers. I have mentioned this before, and I'm going to try not to show you the inside of my mouth because it's glottal fry, which is which was used in The Grudge.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
as
yeah,
soon as
no.
and as soon as you heard that, see, because my question is, in order for them to say, well, the horror trigger for this horrifying child demon is going to be glottal fry and hair, but glottal fry will be the sound. And I couldn't hear glottal fry for a year after doing that. And glottal fry is a really important part of like vocal warm-ups. It's like, I can't fucking hear that shit. They did not sit down at their favorite synthesizer and tweak knobs. What I'm trying to get at is what extraordinary place do you have to go? And I guess the question, Brad, I see your hand. I'm sorry. The question is, what is the bad guy, bad person, evil, demon, ghost, monster? What is it?
An emergency
What does it look like?
room.
What does it look like? What is it?
Two guys standing on your front porch.
Okay, hold on. What does its teeth look like? Okay, so there's two guys standing on your porch. Why? What do they want to do to you? Why? Okay. We're not brainstorming a movie right now. I'm trying to get to the point of the evil, and I'm trying to give the evil to figure out what that evil is, and to figure out how can I musically, beyond these chords are scary, what can I do? Like if there's two guys standing on your porch, it might be something as simple and effective as squeaky wood. But try and go beyond that. Like try and ask yourself, like, even if it's the sound of something inhaling, even if it's the sound of what thing can become a musical, a sound thing for that evil. Like what can it be? And you can then take this idea and say, well, I'm going to weave that all throughout the whole album because I'm not doing a horror movie, I'm doing an album. So, Brett, I'm going to let you jump in now, and Ivan, you're welcome to keep jumping in. Brett, what you got?
So, I think I understand your question there, and I use a lot of atypical things to get certain emotions across and try to describe that demon all the time. I have taken literal screams and turned them into synthesizers. I know that's process, but you're literally taking a human emotion and then removing it a little bit, sticking it into a machine, making it even more alien. I used cries from a mother who was being hauled off to jail, and she was crying for her children in songs. Backwards messages, horror effects of all kinds. They do a really good job of painting that amorphous something that's sitting there in the darkness, ready to eat you, and you're just becoming aware of it.
Thank you. Alex.
Maybe maybe one way of achieving that is to deliberately go lo-fi and have things hide in ambiguity, so you don't know what you're actually hearing. And so your brain will interpret it if it's primed the right way, in the worst possible way. Yeah, for example, something that reminds me of that is in the video game Doom 3, which is like more horror focused. There are doors that sound like demons screeching, so you're always on the edge, even though it's just a door.
There's a lot of whispers in the static.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, one of the scariest things, and I've never heard this in a horror movie, but one of the scariest things I personally know of is when you turn on the water and you let the water run down a sink, because you start hearing voices. And there's reasons for that. One, because the average bathroom sink is roughly the length of your trachea. And you, because of a whole bunch of the sound of the complexity of water running down the plug hole, it does have something similar to what's happening in your mouth to create words. And if you've ever been under the influence of certain influences, you will understand that letting the water run in, it's scary because you hear them talking. But I've never heard that done. And but my point is that it's, how do you find a place where you can free your mind to explore the sounds created by something that is not of this realm? Because music's not of this realm. Music kind of like ducks in and ducks out. Is music a three-dimensional shadow or a four-dimensional shadow of a five-dimensional realm? Whenever I'm doing a horror movie, which hasn't been very often, I'm always asking them, tell me about the monster. What does it look like? What does it smell like? What's its skin like? How does it consume its victim? Does it chase you? What does it do? What does its feet look like? How does it walk? I want to know everything about it. Because if you are freeing your mind to try to create something beyond chords, it becomes unsettling, really unsettling. And there's been some really excellent ideas here, don't get me wrong, like hydrosynth and screams and all that. It's great. But my first question is, how do you go back and unprogram yourself? How do you deprogram yourself? Because that's freaky, that's scary. Maybe my problem with a lot of horror movies is that you can tell they're going, you can pick the chords they're using and you can pick the sample packs they're using. And it's like, and I think music is just as arguably just as important. Thank you, Brett, telling the story from the monster's perspective. If you want to research Wagner, because Wagner had the idea that the orchestra was the voice of God, and God knew what was going on. So the orchestra knew what was going on. See, somebody might be saying, oh, I'm going to take care of you, and I'm going to love you, and I'm going to all that. But the music under it is kind of tense. Something evil's going on there because there's evil in their intent. I forgot what I was saying. But my point is, I think most horror movies suck these days because the soundtracks suck. That it's like, bah, scare, violins doing this. And it's like, oh, now they're plinking with their modular. This shit is boring. Like, it's not, a demon isn't a synthesizer, usually, unless it's the Phantom of the Paradise. And even then, it was so well, it was smart. I guess that's my thing, is that
part of the problem here is that a lot of the like more recent horror movies, just most of them kind of suck.
Yeah, they do suck.
You know, bad storytelling can't be fixed with good music.
Absolutely agree. Yeah, thanks, Brett, also for mentioning Jaws. I mean, my God, greatest fucking theme ever made. Horror movie, possibly a movie theme, well, besides all the other stuff John Williams did. And that's another really interesting thing, is that the mastery for you to be able to create something horrifying and have somebody sing along with it. Like, that's just brilliant. Yeah, there is, I don't know how much of it I've made totally fucking public, but I did a horror movie and it was not received very well because of the content and everything else. And I remember when I was working with the main composer on it, you know, he said, this won't be remembered as a groundbreaking, horrific movie. It's a bunch of teenagers in a bus on a road trip getting murdered. Teenagers on a camping trip getting killed. He said, but we can still make the soundtrack as, I don't even know how much of what I did went into it. It's difficult also in horror movies that they don't have the time, energy, or whatever to sit down and go, okay, I want to talk to you about this demon. Composers aren't getting paid enough. It's not, yeah, it's a difficult thing. But I'm all about the craft. Boom tish. Does anybody else want to jump in at yeah, right. That was, I suck. Does anybody else want to jump in here and tell me I'm wrong and tell me to go fuck myself?
Yeah, no. I'm absolutely certain that really understanding the scene that you're writing the song, the music for, like the better your understanding of it is, the better you're going to be able to write and make the sounds work for the scene, with the scene, and like, you know, get everything meshed together. And you know, like if you've got that good information up front, everything is going to get easier. Like Suspiria, you know, from Argento, you know, Goblin was just like this, like Italio disco, you know, prog rock band, like, you know, not necessarily the first thought you're going to have when it's like, I'm making a horror soundtrack. But you listen to what they did, and, you know, they fucking nailed it.
Yes. Alex, what are you thinking?
I don't know how much this applies to horror, to music, but for horror movies, I prefer them if they're not just scary, but they have something else that draws you in. So even though you don't like to be scared, you still have the desire to watch it. I think the best horror movies do that.
Absolutely. We can now verge away from okay, so now was there anything else anybody wants to throw in? And I promise I won't destroy you. Well, I will say that with this gentleman who I was a part of the interview of, something that came up frequently was passion. Passion. He kept saying passion. The passion of the character, the passion of the movie. I mean, it was Dracula, and Dracula is a love story. Most movies are love stories. Maybe that's why it's still such a brilliant horror movie. Same with fucking Frankenstein. It was a love story. Isn't that interesting how not many horror movies are motivated by the need to be loved? Isn't that interesting? Anyway, anymore. Yeah. So, Rezi, what do you got?
Before we get out of horror, what's more important in this? Dwelling in the revulsion, as in grossness, or the startle moments, or the generalized fear? Which of those elements is the one that we're tuning into here, or on balance?
That's great. I don't know. What does everyone else think? Brett, turn your mics on.
And I'm truly asking because I want the insight, not like I don't really have it. Like I'd love to know.
My call right now is character and motivation and passion. So character and motivation. Who is this character? Why are they doing what they're doing? What's going on inside them, and how can I represent that musically? And also, where is it going? Because that's another thing, is that so many horror movies, it's like whatever the scourge is, it's not made clear why it's doing it, and the horror character is on a journey too, but we don't. And the journey is more than I'm gonna kill you and you're gonna be the last virgin cheerleader to die walking backwards down a dark alley. Dog food, man. Oh, Brett, what do you think?
Yeah, so I find with like horror, like the best movies and whatnot, they create a strong sense of dissonance. There's a character, whatever the main character is, has something like your like the conversation you're talking about, you know, that they're passionate about. It's a loved one that's missing. It's loved ones far away, or they're in love themselves, and it's a freaky situation. But and then as it progresses, it gets more and more dissonant. And that is something I try to do as well with music to kind of represent that. And what I find is you write something, at least for me, I try to come up with something that's really pretty and then marry it with something extremely ugly, you know. And what it does to the human ear is kind of individualistic. You know, it's hard to make everyone feel like you. That doesn't mean that you can't make them feel.
Yeah.
You know, two people facing a monster in the woods at night are going to react totally differently.
I'm just writing something down. That the motivation with so many monsters is I need to feed. I have a hunger that cannot be quenched.
Mm-hmm.
And what's fantastic about that is I've got that too. So do you. All of us do. Yeah. Isn't it?
Kind of has a neat song, Nightcrawler, on the Painkiller album. That does, you know, honestly, I find it to be a really cool, you know, horror story about this indescript kind of monster that they can, you know, the people in the song are listening to it crawl up the stairs. They know it's coming for them. The whole time it's getting closer and closer, and then the scream starts happening.
It's nice to know that I am a breath away from becoming a monster. And that's something absolutely wonderful. Speaking of other small furry monsters, there's Josie. It's good to know that, and that's something that, you know, as a part of the finding this monster, to empathize with it, and to try and figure out what it is. I mean, I guess what I'm saying is, I want to do musically to the monster what Geiger did to the monster. Like Geiger came up with a concept. Well, it wasn't just Geiger, it was everybody in that who worked on Alien. Came up with a concept that was so profoundly alien and horrific that it's still, our psyches have still not come to terms with it. And we're still working through all these movies trying to come to terms with this thing. You can't kill it. It won't be stopped because it needs to feed. It needs to multiply. It needs to whatever. Yeah, the ring. Jesus Christ, the ring. And the sound design of the ring was just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And they use flies. So they constantly use flies. And listen to the American one and the Japanese one. The American ones are higher fidelity and you can hear it better, but they have different horror. There's musically and sound design, there's different stuff going on. It's really fascinating. If you can sit down and compare and contrast, I cannot, because it's just so fucking unnerving. Does anybody else want to jump in at this point? Somebody please jump in at this point.
Yeah, I've got a lot to think about like why we as artists are charged with this custodianship of people's bad feelings in a safe, protected way so that they can sort of play them out and experience them, and how to do that, and if it's really your job and passion, what happened? Why are you like that? It's gonna be okay.
I can answer that on a personal level. For me, it was kind of therapeutic. You know, it was a way to take real life situations, turn them into horror monsters, and then play with them in a controlled environment where I could make them 10 times more sinister or crash them into a wall.
Yeah. I mean, we have a responsibility to do this. I mean, I guess we're in a genre with minor keys and negative valence stuff like all around, so I get it, but it's a strange, play space where we're like burning our Barbie dolls and torturing, or as opposed to like real pets and stuff who we have obviously a cumulative great affection for. In
Exactly. I mean, for me, it's a way to express those emotions. I mean, everyone's got them.
Yeah.
But, instead of truly, beating up your enemy or yelling at somebody or doing something that in real life would.
I think there's some deeper purpose to that stuff, like to exercise these sort of war tendencies or exercise, like as in practice, and exercise as in workout, both senses of that homonyms. But it's a strange position to be charged with. Like, some people seem to truly fetishize it, like it's a lifestyle and personality that they develop around horror genre tropes, and then there's people who you just would never guess that it's something that they can turn on and turn off, and they do it with some subtlety and skill in other ways. It's an interesting spectrum of craft and creativity that comes out in this, and how we're trying to impart it on the viewer or listener is
well, to that
fascinating.
degree, though. I mean, humans are very much like that. If you go back and listen to some of the most horrific, people in American culture, for like Ed Bundy or something like that, everyone's like, "Oh, he was so charming," and that was the terrifying aspect.
Yeah, it requires an amount of charisma to communicate.
Yes,
for sure.
Nice, clean cut, proper dude. Hi, how are you? And then you're gonna wear a hammer by the end of the night.
This is such an interesting conversation, because then it leads to music. And so if you're not doing a horror soundtrack, how do you then go, all right, well, I'm going to listen to the lyrics of this song or the mood of this song beyond a bass line or beyond blah, 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 whatever it is, beyond the standard requirements of a song. And if you want to write a song like that, that's great, go do it. But sometimes you might go, I want to push myself, I want to do something different. If you're bored, here's a fun idea. Create a song about something evil. Or no, I'm going to focus on evil. I'm not going to say love or anything like that. I think love's evil. But create a song based on something evil. And give the evil form, give it words, give it lyrics, even start with lyrics. And then ask yourself, go through the motions of this to try and push yourself beyond time signature, chords, all of that stuff. Then once you've got this thing going on, sure, pull it into a 4/4 with a catchy dance beat if you want.
Yeah.
Something else this guy said is that in his orchestra, when he does this stuff live, there's a Foley player. And they're doing more than just making steps on a creaky wooden floor or opening and closing a door. They're adding sounds that are unnerving, that violins and stuff can't create. Like stones being rubbed together or whatever. That shit's fascinating.
A bottle breaking in the right context can be
sure. Yeah.
Especially with some reverb or something like that, or natural reverb if you can get it, like an alley. All of a sudden now you've got a new characteristic to that.
Love it. Does anybody else want to jump in on this? Okay. Well, the next thing is we could talk about the musicality and building instruments and what instruments you like to use to create fucked up shit. The floor is open.
Hey, building a drum.
Good on ya.
Yep.
Tell me more.
So after Hurricane Helene, we had a bunch of downed trees. I grabbed a log, put it on the lathe, and I have it's a kind of a bongo about this long so far. I've just got the rough shape of it, and I'm oiling it. But I'm looking at different things like creating different cavities inside of it to give it a different sound, and it's something I can repeat. That's an example of just something I'm currently working on. Banging on broken guitars is also fun.
I'm a big one for broken guitars.
Use some strings on them still. Just hit them. Let them run into the pickups, humbuckers, whatever you got. It's just noise, but it's fun. Yeah, and it goes into your sample library.
And the wonderful thing about a lot of this stuff is that you can't create it, or well, you can, maybe you can't. Creating it synthetically is difficult. Actually getting up, building something and breaking it is great.
Yep. I'm looking more into 3D printed stuff as well. I've noticed that some of like my failed models sound pretty cool when they get hit by a projectile.
Of the 3D printing plastic, how resonant is it? Like, can you create something like a bell or a shape or something and use it as a resonant chamber?
You can create resonant chambers, yes, but they work best in things like whistles, flutes, trumpets, not so much drums. And it has more to do with, like, if you're using an FDM printer, which is, whatever, the classic, print plastic, whatever, it has shear lines. And so you got to it won't stand up to the wear and tear for very long. Resin is a little better, but in terms of those cavities, but it's not something you want to put on your mouth. So,
because I'm also thinking, like, if you connect a string to it and you pluck the string and the string is being used, or you set a tuning fork on it.
That could work.
Yeah, because that's something I've always, like Hans Zimmer for Dune 2 got these two huge resonators, and they're these pyramid looking things. They look like they were from the set of Mandy, and they added this, and they did this in Lord of the Rings as well. They built wooden sculptures, wooden things that moved sound, traveled sound, funnel sound, altered sound, and it, like, that shit's so interesting to me. When
That's kind of premise what Blue Man Group's doing with those tube drums.
Yeah. Also, like, I don't know. How many times have I fucking said, oh, I really want to get a transducer and stick it on the blaster beam so I can turn it into a spring thing. I've said it so often, you guys are sick of me saying it, but I do, because that's creepy. Like, I just love creepy. Yeah, that's what I got.
Torn speakers, the old punk trick of, stick a fork in your speaker and then play it as loud as it'll go, is a good way to get interesting sounds, especially if you use like a microphone or something through it instead of like a guitar, and you're able to then just capture objects, because you're not going to get a distortion that sounds like that. If you put pennies on the speaker, it gives you another effect.
I like that. Here's something else really crap about modern soundtracks and stuff, is that you don't have time to fuck around with shit like this. And if you did, it would be amazing. But you don't have, like, even, you read an interview with even someone like Trent Reznor, and it's like, you don't have time. Fucking Hans Zimmer doesn't, you can't fuck around, because by the time the cue comes through and the length of the cue and instead of it going this place, now it's going here. Now that the cue is actually going into this different thing, so therefore everything about it has to change. You can't. That's something I always, I haven't done enough soundtrack. I haven't really done fucking any, but it's like a constant thing I'm hearing is that it's not. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. There you go. There you go. Isn't it just shitty how time and money fucking conspire against creating something wonderful? Isn't that what we're supposed to be doing? No, it's commodity, apparently. Ivan, help me. I'm going dark.
What I found is a good, creative outlet and exercise is take a scene from a movie that you already know and like, and then re-soundtrack that scene.
That's a great idea. That's a really cool idea.
There's a lot of moving parts, and they're all kind of interesting to play with, and that turns into publishing. It turns into a whole problem, but
okay, I'll keep going and let me know when I can read you.
Because they've got a scene for the last scene from Romeo is Bleeding. I've been playing with that one on and off for years because it's 11 minutes or or is it 6 of like a lot of ups and downs. So there's a lot to work with there in a pretty well-defined time frame. Which is kind of cool. And usually when I'm messing with it's 100% just me playing live, and I have occasionally made stuff that was just like, wow, I didn't know that I could do that.
Okay, that's really inspiring. It would be really interesting to see also if you got like a 3.5 minute thing and you stuck it over one of your songs, and you said, okay, well, I've got the bass line and the vocals and everything else, and this 3.5 minutes is leading to a climax. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shape the music to match the what's going on the TV, what's going on Ivan, that is brilliant, man. I've never done that. I would like to. I
like the you've taken it to a new place. That's really good. I like that.
Because I did actually bite a song that I think is one of the greatest songs ever written. I won't say what it was, but it was written over 100 years ago, and everybody knows it, and everybody can hum the whole thing while you're galloping. And I bit the shit out of it. And it's interesting that this song is based on a pop song. It is straight up a pop song. And if you follow this thing, it will lead you to this insane crescendo, like absolutely fucking out of control. And I was A-Bing a recording I have of this amazing song with my track, which was okay. But fucking, and even if you say, you use a video piece that is like sparse, creepy, ambient or something like that, and put it in your song as well, to score it, to soundtrack it, not to sample it. So this is nice because now you're sampling its soul, you're sampling its intent.
Yes, and it will take you to new places. And as far as exercises go, I love doing this because it's fun, and it will find that last bit of creativity you have and just dig it out of your soul, especially if you choose the right scene. choose a scene that you're already pretty well connected to, like you really get it, and it makes it not easier. It makes it kind of harder, but like in a good way, because like you have to you end up really digging.
I like
It's
it.
therapeutic as well.
And apparently a lot of scenes are cut to a rhythm, like
They are.
fucking Holst's Mars or something, but whatever. And so therefore it could be easier. This is great. I love it. Resi, Resi, what do you think?
I think another similar in that vein of playing along with something that already exists. I've done collaborations with other musicians and a visual artist before doing the graphical score. So the time will be on one axis and then their gestures and visual indications as if there was pitch or timbre or whatever. But you can do some like really, especially if there are multiple musicians working off the visual score with their own interpretations loosely based on that thing and coordinating from there. You can get some pretty interesting and the results coordinated together. Very cool if you're all working on the same direction, I suppose.
I love it. Brett, just if I could be really quick, because I have this dream of scoring a horror movie live, with a whole bunch of acoustic instruments, and or electronic instruments, and there's themes and all of that stuff that's going to go in there, but you're creating stuff like your Neun Barton and it's 1987. And you're creating something go, you know what I mean? That to me is mind-bogglingly exciting. And hell, look, instead of doing a horror movie, put it in your damn track. So stuff just starts rocking and going randomly for no reason. Brett, what do you think? I saw your hand and I just railroaded you, everyone.
Not what I was going to say. A little bit, but I like that idea as well. And I was imagining grabbing like concrete saws and stuff like that. I think as long as you kind of have a little bit of a story to it, that you can use a lot of technically non-tonal things to write a good horror soundtrack. And I'll give you the atonality of American Horror Story, that intro. So what the hell is even that noise? So I think as long as you're pairing it with something that will keep the listener, viewer, going along with it, you can pretty much use anything.
Love it. I love it. Thank you. Does anybody else want to jump in at this point? Okay. Does anybody else want to talk about anything different?
Everyone's tired today, huh?
Dude, it's not joining in Sunday. Ivan, you're looking at, or Saturday, that's how together I am. Ivan, what are you looking on Reverb right now?
Looking at the YouTube for Murnau's Faust.
Oh God. Yeah, that's the old original one.
Yes. Yeah. No, because like this would be a great movie to do that exercise with. Pick a scene and like, because it is so gloriously like over the top and gritty and beautiful and amazing that it begs to have like modern scoring done against it, like actual modern scoring instead of like somebody just trying to reproduce that like 1920s sound to it.
That was actually one of the movies when I used to do this live soundtracks in Chicago. That was one of the movies we were going to be tackling was Faust, and we were watching it going. Doesn't it go like for like 5 days or something? It's really long.
hour and 46,
That's not bad.
which for that era is an insanely long movie.
Yeah, that's. I see Brett. What's going on, Brett? Don't tell me you're leaving.
I remembered what I was going to say. I actually had a lot of fun in a short-lived project called Art, in which we literally took paintings that Dolly was often used and wrote soundtracks for them.
That's great.
It's a good way to practice.
Absolutely.
That's great.
One was the Caravan. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. It's this really trippy, it sound like a really trippy caravan.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, no, and it's also a really good. See, this is another. It's a great example. It's like kind of like doing a freestyle fucking match, kung fu match in music, where or it's like doing theater sports for music. Saying for the next hour and a half, 2 hours, we are going to score this. We're going to go in with some ideas, some sounds, some X, Y, Z, but we are going to score this live. And it can be the most wonderful, amazing thing. Oh, look, everyone's thinking now. And dude, I think I should actually tell Matt this, because we're doing another one of these gigs in February.
Oh,
Now I'm thinking. And it's in Hollywood, for God's sake. So yeah. But nevertheless, it's great. It's just a really good. It's a really good exercise. Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen any of the like people doing musical Tesla coils.
Yeah, that's insane.
On like old 80s music through these things, and it's like it's got a bit more high end. But I remember one of the dudes running Halloween through it, and that sounded cool.
Wild.
I was just thinking of visual elements meets live performance kind of thing.
Very wild. Does anybody want to keep going on this?
Survival Research Laboratories did a bunch of if anyone remembers them.
Yeah.
They had a lot of cool stuff that combined horror and atypical sorts of things making that noise. A lot of them relied on sheer concussive force, though.
That was really interesting, that I found them to be quite horrific. Because it was foreign, it was disgusting. It was interesting that disgust is something that is not really utilized much. I mean, like dumb gore, sure, not really though. But there was something about Survival Research Labs which was disgusting. And that's exciting to me, because I don't get disgusted like that. Razi, what do you think about?
Yeah, highly relatable there. I think the fact that Mark Pauline's missing a digit, like, is the bona fides there, like, sort of proves that there's some risk involved and that there's large scale likelihood of harm going on, and probably not well regulated nor operating to safety specs. So, human dismemberment is, there's a threat of that actually happening there, and some suggestion that it has already. So that's a real resonant one for me, man.
Yeah, and the flamethrowers and
the sounds and visuals are tremendous on top of that, but it all comes together in a really effective piece. Like,
I remember they did something like that in Sydney, and it was curious because one thing I didn't think about was the stink of the diesel. Yeah, you didn't go, oh wow, there's all these machines going on in the one place and we're all around them and it's going to stink like diesel and petrol. The fumes were awful. Disgusting. So more art there. And that's actually something that I remember about it. I wouldn't want to do it again because I don't like those smells are very damaging to my health. And I was wearing earplugs, so but yeah, fascinating stuff. And that's another really interesting thing is that yeah, I don't know. Disgusting is a really interesting. It's interesting because disgust, you want to turn it off and you want to look away. And you know, maybe gore has become a homogenized, safe form of disgust. But you know, it's a tool to achieve. Yeah. It is. Does anybody else want to talk about music, horror, building instruments, or what Ivan's currently looking at on Reverb?
Just wanted to say that right before this, I somehow clicked on the intro to what was the movie called? It Might Get Loud. It's gonna get loud with a takes a piece of wire and winds it around two nails and sticks a bottle in and nails it to a 2x4 and tacks a pickup to the plank and plays some slide guitar on it. It's like kind of legit, like inspirational, sounds cool.
What's this?
Jack
Is it-
White starts the movie. It's Jimmy Page, Jack White, and Edge featured as guitarists in this little historical thing on them. The very opening scene is just like as I described. He cold open and he nails together an instrument and plays it through an amp on a farm. It's a little contrived, like the moment, but he plays it off casual. He's like, all right, you don't need to buy a guitar, and smokes a cigarette. Shuffles off. Peace out.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Brett, anybody talk to me?
Probably the weirdest non-instrument I've played was an oscillating fan.
Fan.
Yeah.
Okay, tell me more about that fan.
Oscillating fan. I took all the wire guards off of it so that you could actually access the blades. The hub of the blades had this kind of textured edge, and so I took this guy. It's a SM57 clone, and or FM56 clone, whatever. Same mic. It had the windscreen though. So I rigged a paper clip through the windscreen and used that to hold a guitar pick. I then set that mic output to the quadriverb and put it on like a bunch of different reverbs and things like that and delays. And then I would hit the high on it. I had a glove and I would hold on to the hub of the fan so I could control its speed, and that's how I would manage its pitch. When I would put the guitar pick against that textured hub, if I released my grip, the pitch would go up, and if I cranked down on it, the pitch would go down. And we actually used that in a couple of songs.
That's awesome. I absolutely love that. Thank you. Yeah, I just kind of had a realization this week that I still need to throw myself into the blast to be more. There's so much that I can be doing more on it. There's so much more experimentation. And you know, then with that attitude, I look at all the synths here and I go, man, I have so much to learn. Like I really have so much to learn, which is exciting. Very exciting. Anyone else want to jump in? Brett.
I've been playing a lot with loops and how they mix with take a loop, throw it up in FL Studio, and then play against that from the Curtis Well. That's been kind of neat.
That sounds epic. That sounds epic. Does anybody else want to drag anything in right now, or should we call it? Because it's kind of like a lazy Saturday. Yeah. Alex, talk to me.
This is quite a different topic, but is there anything one has to watch out for if you're opening a business PayPal account for Bandcamp?
Business
Or is it
paper.
just like a regular account, but for business?
Yeah, it's just regular, and they'll pay you, so you don't have to be doing business as or anything. You can just open it as you under the guise of your band. They just want to know who to pay. They're already set up for the German taxation system and most countries' taxation system. So just set it up, and then start pushing it.
If there's anything to watch out for, it's just which name gets presented by email address and real name. There might be a little bit of testing to do, because I remember I have two. I have a personal and a business with them. I think most of the time, it's hard to keep track of which it is. So keep track of which account you've got, by which email address you used or whatever method, and also note which real personal name gets leaked on it, or business name. There are some things to look into on that. I wish I could say specifically how to fix it, but I just remember it being confusing as hell the whole
I
time.
think
still
I
haven't
have
gotten
to
used
put
it.
my real name out there anyway because of German law, but yeah.
Yeah. And it depends on if you have a true corporation or an LLC or an S corp or whatever the GmbH version is locally, and what the pass-through entity is legally. So something to keep track of. Yeah. Cool.
Awesome. Unless anybody else wants to jump in with anything, I'm going to call it. Okay. This has been the Art of Rock, and every Saturday we are Art of Rocking here and here. So please join us again. And next weekend we're all going to drink more coffee, so we're alive more. I'm going to set up a raid so we can bang on over to MTV TV, because that's where we're going, because MTV TV is the place. And Diana isn't in the chat, which is interesting. Damn it. But anyway, hey, thanks for being a part of this, and it's all just pure out of control rock and roll. And I don't know how to use. God damn it! Hold on a minute. Setting up on a raid on Twitch really bites. Here we are. We're going to MTV TV. So if you're watching on anything else, that's where we're going. And I'll put the link down here so you all can just bang on over. Do it. Yeah, do it like it's